This is, I think we put up too much seating. Anyway, I'm Rebecca Dunkelking. I'm the superintendent of Lowville Academy, and I'll be going through our proposed capital improvement project. And then after I'm done with the presentation, we'll leave time for questions, and we'll answer any questions that we can. And yeah, hopefully, if we can't answer a question, we'll be sure to get back to you on it. So, here we go. Good evening and welcome. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share with you information regarding the proposed project, Protecting Our Future. On Tuesday, October 25th, LACS residents will have the opportunity to vote on a proposition regarding our proposed capital improvement project. Over the past 2 years, members of the Board of Education have been reviewing ideas and conducting planning. We all take great pride in our school and the clean, safe conditions we are able to provide for our students, staff, and the community. I'm excited to present this project to you knowing that we are all entrusted with a great responsibility to maintain and improve this exceptional facility. As with your home, ongoing maintenance is essential. Appropriate stewardship of the district's facilities requires periodic upgrades and improvements to keep the building safe and usable and to maintain operations as efficiently as possible. So on this slide, you'll see a history of the most recent capital improvement projects. The length of time between projects is usually between 7 and 8 years, as continuous maintenance and improvement is needed to maintain such a large facility. If this project is approved by the voters, and by the time we break ground, there will be almost 10 years between preserving our legacy and protecting our future. SED mandates every 5 years to determine conditions and improvements needed in a school facility. The projected cost is a maximum of $14.9 million. We project no tax increase for our community because of the careful planning by the Board of Education. State building aid, along with capital reserve funds that were approved by our voters back in 2020, are projected to offset all project costs, leaving no local share of debt. So, what is going to be done? At this time, I'm going to walk you through some of the big ticket items, and then we'll leave some time to discuss the smaller items. This is an interesting drawing. It's a very old drawing, but this is a drawing for the sewer line that runs from the front of the high school out to Main Street, and it's connected to the storm line. And one of the pipes connected to the sump pit in the high school mechanical room has to be connected to the line on the fluid outflow side of the basin by the south side of the building to Main Street. And so what that basically means is that we have to dig up the pipe. It's a very costly process and replace it. So as soon as our pipe meets with the village pipe, all of that is our responsibility. Right now it's deteriorated and sometimes backs up into our sewer lines, which is not a pleasant experience. Another big ticket item, we're renovating all of the 1955 classroom toilet rooms for handicap accessibility by combining adjacent toilet rooms into a shared toilet room. So right now we have 2 classrooms, and on either side of the wall there are really small bathrooms, for a first grade and second grade. And so the plan is to combine those 2 rooms with a new bathroom. It'll be shared, but it'll be big enough so that students who use wheelchairs for mobility can access their bathrooms. Right now, if a student uses a wheelchair, they have to be wheeled all the way down to the nurse's office, and so it takes them out of the instructional environment, and it's important that we give them the equity of access to stay in the classroom. This also includes replacing the sanitary supply lines from the elementary bathrooms. This is, for those of you who aren't familiar with how the school is laid out, we have a new room that we call either the wrestling room or Mr. Widrick's gym, and there's no bathroom there. And so when our elementary students are there and they have to go to the bathroom, they have to take a buddy or sometimes the entire class and walk all the way through the sunshine room and go to the bathroom over here in the lobby. And so this is really, it's really about safety and about accessibility so that students aren't missing out And there isn't another bathroom anywhere in that whole wing, so adding that bathroom is really going to save a lot of time for our students. We have to replace domestic water heaters and a storage tank that are now obsolete. I trust that Mike gave me the right photos, that that's a domestic water heater and storage tank, so we're going to be replacing those. The other work, the infrastructure, this is just some of the smaller items. Heating, ventilation, and cooling. Provide cooling in the technology rooms, upgrade ventilation in various offices, replace the Deacon cooling system for 14 rooms, including IT, nurse, staff room, and and others. We have to replace a rooftop HVAC unit serving one of the bay areas at the bus garage. And we have to replace the fire alarm, smoke and heat detectors, and circuiting throughout the entire building. So those are other safety and air quality issues that we're addressing in this project. These are some notable items. These are the ones that capture the attention of everyone, because you can't see plumbing and you can't see HVAC units, and sometimes it's hard to think about that, but these are the things that people seem to be drawn to more. So pool improvements include adding a lining to the pool drain lines. The pool drain, and one of our swim coaches is here, could tell you, it's very old and it needs to be repaired. Hopefully in the next capital project we'll see some major renovations there. But this pool lining should do the trick for now. Our main gym floor is getting to the point that it can't be sanded and finished another time. The wood is really, really thin and needs to be replaced so that our athletes and our PE classes can have a safe place to play. That's just the main gym up here. If you can believe it, our turf is at the end of its useful life. I know it seems like we just put it in, but by the time, if this project is approved and by the time we break ground, it'll be definitely at the end of its useful life. So we're planning on replacing the turf fields and the wall pads. We have 146,000 square feet of turf, and we want to replace the curling fence mesh at the athletic fields. For those of you who watch games, they already know that it's starting to curl under, so we'd like to replace that. And this is the one people are talking the most about, even though it's only about 20% of our project. It's the new construction of a track and field. What we're planning on is an 8-lane track with long jump, triple jump, pole vault, and steeplechase. We're planning on natural grass in the middle. The reason why we didn't initially plan on turf is because that would have pushed it over the limit to have no tax impact on our community. Bleachers, a press box, and field lights. We also, if you can see there's a portion, to the upper left where you see the lines. That's a property that we intend to purchase through this capital project to create parking spots. So right now, the parking is terrible, as we know. Through this project, we plan on 122 parking spots, and I'm hoping that helps. Also, that parking area, that will be where buses come and turn around, drop kids off, and pick students up. So they'll be doing it on Bostwick Street and not on the lawn. Some other work in terms of structure. We have to recover the main gym roof with added insulation and a new EPDM membrane. You can ask them about what that is. And we have to recover the north classroom wing roof. Then some miscellaneous things. We have to put in bollards here in front of the elementary cafeteria windows for added security. Right now, there's nothing there that prevents a car from this is the elementary cafeteria, and we want to put something there so that no one can accidentally run into our cafeteria. That was quick. Timeline. Here we go. So through these, over the summer, I met with a lot of different groups through the school who would be most impacted by the project, and then with the entire school district, and then these public presentations. So doing one today, one tomorrow, and one on Saturday, and the vote will be on October 25th. If it's passed, we submit the project to SED for approval. If we get approval, we anticipate breaking ground in spring of 2024 by the time we get approval and go through the bidding process. That's all. That's the project. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to sit down, and please, we're happy to hear any comments, questions, concerns, etc.
What is the individual cost of the track? So the track project.
Oh, with the maintenance, with the field updates,
With the purchase of the property, the new parking lot, the eight-lane track, the lights, the new fence, how much does that part cost?
about 4.2 million.
Is that necessary right now when we're in a recession? My 401's tanking, I'm sure everybody else is too. The food banks are busier than they've ever been. I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed that we're doing this and we've got people that don't have homes, that don't have food, and we're building a track. And you talk about, you know, there's an active shooter, we've got kids running the streets. We have open lunch. Kids are running the streets, high school students, every day. And the fields down at the end of Trinity, those kids walk up unattended. There's kids everywhere. So the bit about them being around and an active shooter and we can't find our runners, there's a lot of kids you can't find. Because they're in cars with other people and they're down at Dunkin' Donuts and
Yeah, so we'd like to solve all the problems, but if we can solve a couple, we'd like to, and with no tax impact to our community. This is the...
so you're not embarrassed about doing this when
No, I'm proud to be able to offer the opportunity for our students to have a facility that they can run on and be safe. And
you know, I have 4 children that graduated from here, and I'm very proud of all of them. And you know what they remember about this place? They remember their swim coaches. They remember the certain teachers. That's what they remember. They don't remember that they probably had the oldest pool around. They don't remember, you know, that they built a new gymnasium. They don't remember any of that. They remember people that made a difference in their life. That's what they remember. This is a status thing to me. I just don't see why it has to be done now. Just my opinion.
thank you.
I have a letter written by the residents of Woodlawn Avenue about the project. Kevin, could you just take those pictures up so they can see them? To Lowville Academy board members, we, the undersigned and concerned residents of Woodlawn Avenue and surrounding areas, have many concerns regarding the proposed project being considered for the Bostwick Street Athletic Field. There are many reasons for our concerns, including the following. When the Bostwick Street project, when those fields down there were built originally, many of us were informed by the superintendent and board members, they came down to Woodlawn and talked to us, that these fields would be for practice only. There would never be games on those fields. We were also told that no school buses would ever be traveling on our narrow street, teams being dropped off and stuff. That would not happen. In addition, we were promised that there would never be lights on those fields and there would never be a scoreboard. Again, it was practice fields only. Parking has always been an issue during the times of practice and very inconvenient during game times. A few years ago, after many complaints, no parking signs were installed. However, these signs have been ignored without any consequences, which causes a very dangerous situation for not only pedestrians, and we do have a lot of people walk our street, and residents, but for emergency vehicles accessing the street. One of our residents has actually had a school bus turn around in their driveway on more than one occasion, which is a very dangerous situation when children and parents are entering and exiting the field. We are concerned and frustrated with the parking situation currently and can only imagine what this new project will bring to our neighborhood. Another problem is the drainage situation on the street that we have experienced. This new project proposes for the filling in of the storm basin, which we feel will cause more drainage problems in our homes. The storm basin was engineered and installed for a reason. We have also consulted with a real estate agent who expressed that the value of our homes would be in jeopardy due to this project. The residents of Woodlawn Avenue have the utmost concern for the safety of our children and spectators who would be using this field, as well as for the residents traveling on the street. We understand that the school has another option for the location of this field. We feel that the secondary location is a better option, and we would like to encourage the school board to consider this option. Since we wrote the letter, we've had a couple other questions come up. One, has there been a traffic study done on Woodlawn Avenue? If not, is there going to be a traffic study done to see if parking lot on our street is even feasible? The other is, why does Lowville Academy need 3 lighted fields? A little overboard. I also found out tonight that it is in writing that that driveway across from my house would be for pedestrian use only. Now you're talking parking lot. Those are our concerns, and we just wanted the board to know.
Thank you. I can address a couple of these, but as for the drainage, I think I'll turn that over to you guys. So with this project, we intend to improve the parking situation on Woodlawn Avenue because buses would use the Bostwick side because parking lot is set up in a way that buses can turn around in what would be our parking lot. So we anticipate that to be a big improvement, and we can easily not send buses down Woodlawn. I can't speak to the agreement that was made, I'm assuming in 1998, 1999, something like that. Of course, I'm happy to revisit that with you. There is no scoreboard.
There is a scoreboard down there.
Oh, right. Wow. There's no scoreboard in our project. So yeah, and so I'm going to turn it over for the drainage because I know, we've been in communication and working collaboratively with the village on this, and our architects have talked with their architects and engineers, but I'll turn it over to the experts.
Yes. A couple of things. One, Appel Osborne, who was essentially the design of the surface depression seed basin, is the same landscape architect that would be working on the design of this field. And I know that there was a lot of concern brought through when we went through the seeker process regarding drainage. This project will require a speedies permit, which will have input from DEC, and we'll have to demonstrate drainage calculations. And in simple terms, the post-development runoff can't exceed the current runoff. We are anticipating infilling that basin, but going below grade with an on-site storm retention system. You don't see it, but it's a number of chambers that are underground, possibly under the fields or under the area where the grass is. So it'll be designed to take the storm runoff and not create a flooding problem on adjacent properties. So it will be designed. I know there was a lot of conversation with the village, and the concerns were raised, and we're told them, and I'm here to say that we'll communicate with the village as we go through the design process, share calculations, and make sure that we're not creating a problem from a drainage perspective.
Okay, what about the traffic studies?
Traffic study was not conducted. Again, I think that in the seeker process, the traffic, again, those are fields, not a significant increase in the number of cars. So traffic study was not conducted.
You can see from the pictures, the parking down there is horrendous.
And I think, as the superintendent indicated, the development of the new lots hopefully will make that situation better.
But there's...
Well, it's only, did you say 120 cars?
22.
Yeah, that's not enough.
you know, not with a field of that magnitude. I mean,
Well, the difference is, I mean, I think I've been down there for summer league games when it's the busiest. I think it's the women's league, right, during the summer. Because I've been down there, you know, for baseball and softball, and that doesn't seem to be a problem in terms of parking. I'm not sure, I've never counted the cars. I do think that would make a significant impact, but I'm not sure how to.
there are quite a few cars that park in that area now, but they still overflow all the way down to Berkwood.
Mhm.
And we have no sidewalks for people to walk on. And as far as I understand, it would be very difficult to put them in because of sidewalks, because of the drainage and problems, water problems down there.
Can't speak to that either. I'm not sure who.
Does there have to be a parking lot on Woodlawn? Our street is so narrow, and so many people just walk it that I'm just waiting. I understand that a student got in front of a car the other day and one of our residents had to stop quickly to not hit her. Because they're walking in the roads and
The street is just too narrow for buses.
Oh, I agree.
They should not be on that street.
I agree. They won't be any longer, I mean, as long as there's a place where we can drop them off on the other side.
And like I said, we did find out that it is in writing that would be for a pedestrian walkway only.
From
And
a school
obviously that's not being observed.
official? From a school official?
It's in my deed when we sold the property to the school.
All right, I'd like to review that too. No, I certainly not aware of that. But if we could take a
I
look
don't
at that,
have
that'd
it
be
with
helpful.
me now.
No, I know, not now, but we have some time on this.
Just the safety. We're worried about safety. Not against the track in general, as long as it's somewhere else. And the fairground, I mean, when it was proposed 10 years ago,
Yeah,
it was in the fairground.
yeah, right.
So it's
There are some
obviously
issues.
an opportunity to put it there.
There are issues of districts receiving building aid for property they do not own.
There's a 99-year lease on that.
Again, that would require, I guess, investigation by the district and consultation with the state education department as to whether they would aid it or not.
But we will, Mr. Roby, yeah, so if you wanted to come by, happy to sit down with you, that, yeah. And, yeah, we'll look at other options for parking.
So I'm Donna Smith, and excuse me. I would just like to say, after having two girls who have won sectional titles in track and field, I would love to have a track here for them to practice on. It amazes people everywhere we go how good our track team is with no track. And quite honestly, unless we bus them to Beaver River occasionally, maybe 3 times a season, the first meet is how to practice their handoffs, because they've never had the opportunity to practice handoffs in practice with the lines on the track, so on and so forth. So first of all, I am 100% behind having a track to support the athletes, and the girls program is incredible with a number of athletes. So I do have a couple of questions. One, after being involved in the village for so long and going through a huge drainage project, one of them I believe you've answered, but that would be, where is all this drainage going? 2, would you ever consider having a boys track program? Because they essentially can go to the same meets most of the time for different things to be able to participate. And that's something that I think some boys would be interested in who are used to running all year long.
Yeah.
Also, is there a high jump and pole vault?
I know
Okay,
this
because I
whole
heard
lot.
you say triple jump, long jump, steeplechase, but no high jump and
High
pole
jump
vault.
will be, yes, controlled.
Because my daughter practiced the high jump and pole vault in the gym on the thin wooden floor with mats for 6 years. And then my only other thing is, if we are ever gonna host anything here, I'm really not sure, and I've been down to we call it Boswick Fields, for when we have 4 teams on the field in Women's League. The transition time between when everybody's parked everywhere to leave. I'm not certain that 102 parking spots is enough.
Definitely not if we were to host like an invitational or something, so.
Or even if you have 3 or 4 teams that come in.
Right, if it's more than a dual meet.
Right, which we've had.
So,
I think a lot of our meets have been, even though it's a dual meet where you're competing with South Jeff and South Lewis, they're also competing with each other, so you do have 3 schools there. I didn't know if it had ever been entertained to buy some of that property from Fibermar.
so Nina, so
Thank you, I didn't know what it was called now.
we'll continue to try. But in situations like that, we have talked about how we would have to do shuttles from the fairgrounds, shuttle teams over, and shuttle parents over. So we would have to be really strategic about how we did that. But we would like to host, we would like to host meets. That would be a great opportunity for our kids to not have to travel every single day.
And I do think that with scheduling, when events like this happen, even in the future currently with baseball games and stuff, whatever night is a court night at the village or town
Right, good
should
point.
be avoided, because that parking lot is also overtaken with parents' cars where people who are actually there for court really, which there is an agreement to be able to use that parking lot. However, that also gets pretty tricky.
Yeah.
That's just my suggestions.
Going back to the voice track thing, we would love to start a voice track game eventually because we have the facilities, we want to use the maximum capacity.
And the only other question, I believe it's supposed to be grass field. So the kids who practice modified, or the kids who have modified games down there for soccer, so on and so forth, like tonight or last night I drove by, there are 2 or 3 teams practicing at the same time. Will that still be able to happen? I guess is my question. And how do you foresee managing that aspect of life with?
You mean how do we share fields?
Right, so there's really going to be only one area for them to practice,
One
which would
game
be
field,
inside.
Right, and so the other grass area that isn't used, soccer, we could use that for practice fields and things like that, because we wouldn't use that area until it was spring for track, baseball, and softball.
Outfields would still be available for general grass area outside the track.
So there's only one game field down there now.
Right, I just didn't know with the stuff set up.
It's just to show the limits of the field. The majority of it, other than the infield, is just outfield grass. So we're showing kind of the dimensions of the fields, but it's grass. It's just to designate essentially the limits to show
Where
the
it
site
would happen.
utilization. Yeah.
Okay.
So I heard something about an alternate site at the fairgrounds. What's the cost of a track on an alternate site versus, it seems like the parking problem would be solved if it was at the fairgrounds. You're not safer, I would think. Track, plus some kids down there, so if you ever looked at entertaining what the cost of doing it at the fairgrounds would be?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where they were trying to get the track last time. So SED tends not to aid projects on property that you own. And even though we have a 400-year lease, we still don't own the property. one way is to engage with maybe the county in buying it, but then it's ours and we're not there. So I don't want to speak too far ahead because I haven't had any discussions about that. But it is a possibility, so, but it's unlikely.
So they have the conversation with the state health department on it at all, or?
Yeah.
Not yet.
I mean, it was okay to do it that way 10 years ago.
Not necessarily because it went down. The
Only
project
by
went
6
down.
votes.
Well, I know, but, so it was never submitted to state ed for approval. Do you see what so we're not sure if it passed the vote, if it would have passed state ed for funding.
I would have thought it would have been approved before we did that.
That's not how, I know, that's not how state ed works. They have to make sure the project passes first and then you submit everything. And then they tell you.
Wasn't it a track though out here where the turf currently is?
No, it was over at the fairgrounds. Certainly something we can research, see if other districts have been able to do something on lease plan. I'm not familiar with any, but we can ask questions and get back to you folks. When you come with your team.
Is a track something that needs lights?
So it doesn't need lights. We would never use the lights unless we were to host a big event like
That might run late.
sectionals that runs late and just like baseball, we almost never turn the lights on. But because it's in the spring and the sun, is lighter longer, but occasionally you have to turn it on for the last hour or so, depending on
It seems like a big expense for everybody.
Well, it does. Getting schools to come here though is also a good opportunity for our community, our students who run. Yeah, and with everything there's a benefit and a sacrifice. Unfortunately, in this case, you are Warren School that potentially have lights in your backyard.
Will affect our property value.
But the lights are directed to the playing field, they're LED, and essentially, it's not essentially the light kind of, I'm going to say bond of the older lighting types. The lighting has gotten much more directed onto the field and not onto the adjacent spaces. So there's been,
Build in your backyard.
I understand, and I'm not, I'm just saying that the lights are directed on the field. They're fairly spot, and the light level tails off fairly quickly when you get outside that directed area.
It sounds like we have a couple of questions to answer for you folks. I'd love it if you would come in and talk about it. And we'll do some research in the meantime. Any other questions?
On the actual voting, community voting, is that going to be a separate line item for the track, or is that
No, it's
it's
all
all
one.
inclusive?
Yeah.
It's a whole budget thing. It's like one budget.
One budget, yes or no?
Sit here with Joe Biden.
Oh. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow night, doing the same thing if anybody wants to come. And then if you do get home and you think of questions that you have that you forgot to ask, just either email me or call me at the district office. I'm happy to answer anything that you have, and I'll follow up with you folks personally.
Did you say there would be a traffic study?
No.
I was gonna say, have you looked at having the street widened with sidewalks? Do you plan on dropping all the kids off for practice with a bus and then taking them back to school, or are they planning on walking down as they usually do now?
They probably still walk down now that I don't want to say how they walk down the practice. I'm not 100% sure how that would work. But for teams who get dropped off there, you know how we have
Right, like
baseball
now
and
they
stuff.
walk down Trinity,
Mhm.
down, what is it, Ross?
Woodlawn.
Well, there's West, thank you.
West Street.
West Street and then down. Has there been any entertainment of
Putting a sidewalk.
putting a sidewalk in one side or something so that there's a designated location?
There is so much drainage down there that I've heard that it would be way too expensive to do it.
And it
We
might
have
be.
drainage ditches.
Oh,
and-
I know.
Plus, we don't want them taking our yards
We
either.
don't really want sidewalks.
Okay.
We
It
like
wouldn't be
it.
aidable either.
No, but you-
We like our street the way it is.
But you could put it
We like
on
this
the
like our-
side that is with Nina, that goes up that side, the kids then walk and come up the sidewalk on Trinity Avenue. Because the sidewalk in front of Two Birds Antiques isn't any good for them to walk on either. So
That's a whole street over, isn't it?
it's where they walk.
I don't know where
No, you're
that
the
is.
one road.
I like to see
They
kids
walk
walking that
down
way for
past,
sports. Maybe they're walking home afterwards.
They
They
go
don't-
across from
They don't go to Shady, they come down Trinity. Two-Birds
So
on
it
Shady.
must be it's them walking after they're done with practice on over. That's a horrible area there too.
Oh.
Yes,
But do you know what I was saying? Like, is there a distinct area so the kids aren't crossing the street? They'll probably do it anyway.
that property belongs to the factory anyway.
Correct, but the village probably has a right of way of 15 feet on that side of the street.
But like I said, they'd almost have to bridge, they'd have to put bridges over those
Culvert pipe.
culverts.
Probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do intend to continue to talk to Nina and ask them some of those things that they want to do. If they understand. But I am interested in looking at other options for parking if we on the other side, look at some green space. Because I agree with you, safety of not only you folks, but the residents, but our students. And yeah, we can find an alternate method. And love it. All right.
Is this information how everything is broken down on the website?
Like that, or?
Well, like that the track costs this much, this costs this much, this costs this
No.
much. Is that broken down anywhere when we're voting on this whole budget?
No, because we only have best estimates right now. We won't really get the fine detailed costs until we submit to SED and go through that process. So it's a little misleading sometimes. We don't wanna, we know we have $14.9 million that we can spend without impacting the taxes of our residents. So what happens sometimes is when you submit to SED, and then you do the bid process, things come in over, and so you have to pull things out of the project to make sure you stay under the 14.9. So basically what you're agreeing to is the amount of money we're spending and the basic gist of the project, but not everything. It's not a guarantee that everything will make it into the project, depending on the cost of things. That
Are you taking into consideration the cost in 2 years?
We have an escalation contingency factor. Continue.
Things are just going up, they're
Yeah.
not coming down.
Yeah, so it includes escalation costs, incidental costs,